Hello once again YouTube, Chris and I bringing you some Starmade today. Today I'm going to be continuing the progress I've made on the Caldari Naga, which is the ship that I'm building in my Creating the Naga series that you are watching right now. And the actual last episode that I posted, I haven't even posted yet for myself, so I don't know what you've said on that video yet. I will take that into account for the next video I make because it will be time. Whatever. Just know that I haven't posted the first video yet when I'm recording this. So, here you can see the wireframe that I pretty much had left off on in the last episode. And basically, if you don't already understand what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to not only get detail into the ship and, you know, make it accurate and nice looking so that I can start fleshing it out later with full hull stuff, hull pieces, and all that crap. What I'm trying to do is actually get a location for the core in place. And as you can see right here, this is a crystal, and this represents where I want the core to be. So, let me explain something real quick. If you don't know already, EVE Online ships require a capsule to fly if you're playing the game. Basically, you get in the capsule, you get the capsule into the ship, and then you control the ship with your mind. Now, I cannot control the EVE Online big-ass ship that I have built here with a docked ship. So, once you get inside your pod and you dock it to the ship, you can get out and you can jump in the core, which would be right there, and then you can pilot the ship from the core. How cool is that? So, essentially, the wireframe stage is a stage where I can determine where I'm comfortable with placing the core of the ship as well as the docking area, and figuring out how the docking area is going to be, how I'm going to lay that out. So I have a door here, you go down inside the door and this all fits, and there's a big section for the capsule, which would be all the capsule systems that make it, you know, functional and interface the capsule with the ship. Right above it is the command center. The command center is the place where the ship is piloted, and I figured, you know, that's a pretty good place to put the capsule near. From what I've seen, the capsule's always close to the command center. And the tactical bridge, there's a fucking moth in my face. Get the fuck out of here, moth. Go away. Holy shit, that scared me. I didn't know what it was. So yeah, there's a command center, and then there's also a tactical bridge. Now, the tactical bridge on this ship is like over here in this general area, right? It's a pretty big section, and basically, since this is a warship, it's fitted for war, it's going to have a tactical bridge. Every ship from EVE Online that is larger than a frigate or a destroyer pretty much has a tactical bridge. Tactical bridge takes all the responsibilities of watching over weapon systems and making sure that you're targeting the correct things, and, you know, figuring out what is the more important target. And in a ship that's full of hundreds, if not thousands of people, that's pretty important. It's less important when you're a capsuleer flying the ship all alone and the only people you have on there are for supporting the systems of the ship, which is what happens in EVE Online. So a lot of people don't know that, by the way. In EVE Online, when you're flying a ship, there's still people on board your ship doing stuff. Like, if you have a Titan, it's not like you're one fucking person flying a Titan. There are literally thousands of people on board that ship with you as well. And the funny thing is when that ship blows up, chances are 90% of them are dead, and you will always survive because you're in a capsule. That's just a little tip, or not a tip, but a little fact about EVE Online, which is just kind of ridiculous. Imagine how many people have died because of fucking PvP in that game, or any cause of death for a player. So, now I was going to use SM Edit to place the core from over there to in there. At the time, SM Edit was being a complete bitch. I couldn't figure it out. I've never used the program before. Every time I clicked on a button on that program, it crashed, and I didn't know what I was doing wrong, and it was just awful, and I couldn't load in this actual blueprint, and I just didn't know what I was doing wrong. So, it's entirely possible that I was doing something wrong. I totally accept that. I just couldn't handle that program anymore. I rage quit so hard. So what I did is I made a copy of this ship. No, actually, no. I put a core down, I built the general stuff up there, and then I started copying sections of the ship. And it only took me like 4 or 5 copies, and what I have now is the start of the prototype version, the prototype phase. So, what this is I'm starting to prototype build instead of the wireframe build, which is me filling out the systems and the hull of the ship. Mostly the hull. The systems come later, and then I'll do the internal stuff. So what you can see here is that I have some of the outlines from the wireframe remaining, but I filled in some of the sections with hull, and as you can see, it gets quite ridiculously big. Look, I got all these little sections here, and you may not be able to see this because it's very dark, but it's like a big box right now, and there's all sorts of stuff. The wireframe for some sections are still there, as I said before. And, you know, some of the outline is still there, just so I make sure that I don't mess up and, you know, accidentally make something wrongly shaped, or if I accidentally delete something, I have reference to go back to. So, you know, not everything is filled in yet, but it's starting to take shape, and you can see, you know, all these compartments are starting to get outlined, and you can actually see the compartments. And it actually looks really good, and if I, just real quick, I'll come up here and show you the view from the actual bridge. This is the bridge where you would fly the ship from it. Look how fucking good that view is. It's so good. I love it. So, the core is in place, which is in here. If you were to fly the ship, this is what you would see, pretty much, from the core at the moment. Of course, all this stuff would be filled in with other types of hull and systems. So, let me tell you about the problem I ran into. Basically, now, let me explain. I'm trying to create the most realistic, accurate EVE Online ships that I possibly can, and I wanted to do it entirely by hand. I wanted to make a ship entirely by hand so that I could sit there and say, I made this by hand, and it would be way more impressive than if I just imported a model and retrofitted it. So, here's the problem with that. I have to do all the math myself, which means that if I make a mistake, that mistake can carry over into other equations that I have to do to figure out the proportions. Now, if you don't know how I'm doing the proportions, basically, I take the length of the ship, right? It's 614 meters long, and it ends with this little purple segment down here. That's the 14 meters. The black is 100 meters long, and it goes down in increments of 100, so there's 614 meters, right? I take that measurement, and I measure the width of a major feature. So the major feature that I measured was the width of this big, huge-ass hull plate from one side to the other. And then I figured out the height. And once I have those two measurements down, I can start designing the entire ship based off of that. I can take the height, for example, and I can use, if I'm looking at the ship from, oh, I just went into something. If I'm looking at the ship from this direction, and it's 97 meters from the bottom of that blue bar to the top blue bar, right? And it goes all the way across, 197 meters tall is that section. I can then measure, you know, how big this gap is. You know, I can measure how far down this angle goes. And I don't do it with every single measurement. I base a lot of that type of stuff off of eye, but I want to know how long is this little section of hull that sticks out, right? How high is certain sections, how long are certain sections? How long, on average, is each of these compartments? And, you know, if there's 20 compartments, I take the starting edge and the end edge, and I figure out the length, and then I divide it by a number, and bam, I have the number of compartments and how big they are. So, basically, all of that is based off of my own math, my own calculations. And the problem is if I make a mistake, it can carry over into the rest of the ship, and that's exactly what happened. When I got to this point down here, it turns out that the original calculations or whatever that I had done were turning out to be, when I was trying to figure out the length of a new point, a new segment, it was turning out to be a longer than it was supposed to be. For example, all of this section here should, according to my equations, according to my calculations and proportional values, should be longer. It should this green section that doesn't look so green, right, with the angles, this green pole with my math ended like over here. And that's way too big. If you look at the picture, it doesn't look that long. So I ran into a problem where, you know, things were not going to start fitting the way they were supposed to. They were not going to line up the way they were supposed to. There's a big engine segment right here that I started having a problem with, and that's where I stopped. That's where I ran into a problem that I couldn't get around. I didn't know how to solve it because I wanted it to be accurate, and I was turning it into an inaccurate representation. So I had a plan. And the plan was to compare it to the actual model from EVE Online. And this is where I've had a change of heart, and this is where some of you may hate me for this, some of you may love me for this, I don't know. But essentially what I did is I took Try Exporter, it's a tool, similar to SMEdit, but it exports the models from EVE Online into OBJ files, or whatever files. And then I take that file, and I put it through SMEdit, I set the size for the model in SMEdit, and then I turn it into a blueprint. I load the blueprint in to Starmade, and what do we have? We have this. Now, the good thing about the models from EVE Online is that they are not solid, they're actually completely hollow. And that's amazing because a lot of models will force you to have to empty out the insides, depending on where you get them from or what they are. So that's really cool. The model is actually entirely hollow, which means I don't have to worry about pushing around 500 million blocks or something like that. Of course, I wouldn't be surprised if there are 500 million blocks in that right now. I'm pretty sure the ship that I'm in is up to 100,000, right? So I'm not 500 million, like 500,000, sorry. That's a little exaggerated. So, as you can see, these ships are lined up so that they're starting at the same point. And if we come all the way down here, you'll see just how off that I was starting to get with my calculations. Now, keep in mind, even with my calculations, I was still pretty accurate. But, for example, right here, if we look at this section right here, if we look across, we can see that this hull plate is not matching up with the end of that hull plate, which is right there on my cursor, right? It's, on mine, it's stopping a good 15 blocks past it. And if we come over here, the bridge is actually pretty dead on. I'm quite surprised at how accurate I was with the bridge. And that's like the first time I'm seeing it. I'm going to turn this off because who needs that? And this is pretty good, but over here, you can see it's starting to get a little off. I mean, it's not that bad, but still, it's not making a lot of sense. It doesn't look the same. Or at least I don't think it looks the same. I may actually be pretty accurate with this. But look at this, look at this. I made this change because I thought it looked better, and it turns out I'm changing where everything is. Actually, now that I'm looking at this, I wasn't that far off, but still. There's still problems that I'm running into with how the ship is designed. For example, if I come down here, this hull plate ends on my ship here, but on that ship it ends over there. And, you know, that's a problem. And I thought at that point, even though I'm looking at it and I'm realizing I wasn't that far off in some sections, I thought that I had messed up this entire back end, and for the most part the entire ship. So I came to the conclusion that I'm no longer going to be making the ship with my own hand 100%. It's going to be more like 90% my hand, because I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, and I'm hoping that you guys will agree with me on this, because it's a pretty good idea. Now, I know a lot of people bring in models and they clean them up, and basically what they do is they're like, oh, see these sticky bits? We'll just get rid of these, and we'll get rid of this, and we'll get rid of that, and we'll clean it up, and it'll be a nice ship, and then we can fill it in with whatever we want, and we can repaint it, and all that good shit. And I say no to that. You have to take it a step further. Because even if you clean up all these little lines and all these little gaps here, oh god, I'm lagging out so hard right now, why? Why am I lagging? Okay, I'm good. Even if you clean up all this stuff, it's still going to be very funky, you know, step. You know, it might go from like 2 to 4 to 3 to 4 to 4 to 4 to 3 to 2, stuff like that. I don't really want that. The way I had it is actually very clean. I'm trying to make it, you know, very nice. It's 2, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 3. No, it's actually 4, my bad. 4, 2. So, you know, I'm making it a nice step, and you know, you don't always get that when you just clean up the model. So what I'm going to do is I am going to completely rebuild the model with a new wireframe based off of the the model that I have in front of me. So I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna outline sections of the hull with the blue again and all that type of stuff. All the stuff that I did with the first one, right? It's gonna be a wireframe. That's all it's gonna be. And I'm gonna wireframe the shit out of the entire thing. And what that's gonna allow me to do is restart the entire build with the best possible proportions that I can get And then after that, excuse me, and then after that, I will be able to fill it all in again and re-upload it for download after I have finished the ship with the most accurate representations of the ship I can make. Holy shit, that was a mouthful. So, I want your guys' opinion on this. I definitely want to hear from you. I want to know what you think. I was against this type of stuff, but at the same time, this allows me to build things so much faster than I could have before had I not done this. I just think it's a much better way of going about it than building what would be an imperfect ship, because at this point OCD kicks in for me, and I'm not like an OCD type of person, but it's like I want to make the best possible thing I can make, no matter what. I want to be the only one that has done this to the best of their ability. I'm not saying other people can't try and that they shouldn't. I'm just saying that, you know, I want to be known for creating this because I have a real passion for taking these ships from EVE Online, which I think look amazing, and turning them into Starmade ships and having you guys play with them. And it's been so long since I've started doing this, and I have only released so few ships that I'm like sick and tired of waiting. I'm sick and tired of making my own designs. It takes way too long for me to do anything with it. And, you know, I got other things to do. So I'm thinking this is what I'm going to do. Now that I figured out how to do this process, I think that's what I'm going to start doing. And I hope you guys can support me in that because I think it's really cool. I think it would give you a much better quality ship. It'll give you something that looks more accurate. And basically, I'll just be I'll be doing the entire hull over again, refitting it with a new wireframe, filling in all that wireframe, and then filling in the hull so that you guys have one of the best looking ships out there when it's done. So, tell me what you think. Oh, on top of that, all of the ships on EVE Online have multiple color schemes, so I'll be releasing them with multiple color schemes. Chances are the actual stats will not change, but the color schemes will, so you get a variety of colored ships for the same model. So keep that in mind. I'll be doing that as well. It'll be really awesome. So, that was a mouthful. I'm tired. I'm going to be putting off this project. I'm going to be putting it on hold. You will not be seeing me doing this Naga for a while because I want to start with smaller ships now that I have the ability to do so. Smaller ships will be done faster and I'll put a lot more of them out quicker. So the first thing I'm doing is going over all the rookie ships and rebuilding them. I've already released 2 of them. I'll be rebuilding them anyway, even if they are pretty accurate. We'll check them out in future. So I'll be redoing all of that and I'll make my way up the ship list again as time goes on. But I would just like to say thank you for watching. I hope you guys support me in this endeavor because I know it's, you know, there's, you know, I know there are people out there that are entirely for this type of stuff or entirely against it. So let me know what you think. Leave some comments down below. In the future, expect some really cool showcase videos for ships. I'm definitely gonna, you know, try and make some really cool ways of presenting showcase videos and stuff like that. So keep a lookout for that and totally check out my other stuff. And if you want, you can subscribe as well because there's a subscribe button and it helps you keep track of my life and all the things that I do, which is not entirely creepy at all. And I will see you later because this video is over. Goodbye! Basically, if you don't already understand what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to not only get detail into the ship and, you know, make it accurate and nice looking so that I can start fleshing it out later with full hull stuff, hull pieces, and all that crap. What I'm trying to do is actually get a location for the core in place. And as you can see right here, this is a crystal, and this represents where I want the core to be. So, let me explain something real quick. If you don't know already, EVE Online ships require a capsule to fly if you're playing the game. Basically, you get in the capsule, and there's also a tactical bridge. Now, the tactical bridge on this ship is like over here in this general area, right? It's a pretty big section, and basically, since this is a warship, it's fitted for war, it's going to have a tactical bridge. Every ship from EVE Online that is larger than a frigate or a destroyer pretty much has a tactical bridge. Tactical bridge takes all the responsibilities of watching over weapon systems and making sure that you're targeting the correct things and, figuring out what is the more important target. And in a ship that's full of hundreds, if not thousands of people, that's pretty important. You get the capsule into the ship, and then you control the ship with your mind. Now, I cannot control the EVE Online big-ass ship that I have built here with a docked ship. So, once you get inside your pod and you dock it to the ship, you can get out, and you can jump in the core, which would be right there, and then you can pilot the ship from the core. How cool is that? So, essentially, the wireframe stage is a stage where I can determine where I'm comfortable with placing the core of the ship, as well as the docking area, and figuring out how the docking area is going to be, how I'm going. Hello once again, YouTube. Chris and I bringing you some Starmade today. Today I'm going to be continuing the progress I've made on the Caldari Naga, which is the ship that I'm building in my Creating the Naga series that you are watching right now. And the actual last episode that I posted, I haven't even posted yet for myself, so I don't know what you've said on that video yet. I will take that into account for the next video I make, because it will be time. Whatever. Just know that I haven't posted the first video yet when I'm recording this. So, here you can see the wireframe that I pretty much had left off on in the last episode, and to lay that out. So I have a door here, you go down inside the door and this all fits, and there's a big section for the capsule, which would be all the capsule systems that make it, functional and interface the capsule with the ship. Right above it is the command center. The command center is the place where the ship is piloted, and I figured, that's a pretty good place to put the capsule near. From what I've seen, the capsule's always close to the command center and the technical bridge. There's a fucking moth in my face. Get the fuck out of here, moth. Go away. Holy shit, that scared me. I didn't know what it was. So yeah, there's a command center, and